Dynasty the king.
Perhaps the Christmas season is starting early because, Dylan, we finally got a Thursday night football game that was both competitive and fantasy goodness. I mean, my favorite TNF game, prior to this one had to be the Justin Fields, DJ Moore game earlier this season. But this was the best. Yeah. But this game, back and forth, Dallas Cowboys get the win, 35-41, Cowboys on top. Dak looked electric. And if you're a fantasy owner, almost any player you had, other than like Rico Dwaddle, had an unbelievable game. Are you going to correct my pronunciation?
No, I'm going to let you rock, bro. I'll let the comment section.
Is it Dwaddle?
It's only a matter of time before we get, people commenting like, does this dude actually know how to pronounce anyone's name?
I think it's endearing.
It's that
I don't. Yeah.
It's kind of like one of those things that's cute, like a puppy. It's like, oh, he doesn't know how to speak English.
I have some endearing qualities. One of those is mispronouncing Rico Dowdle's name.
It's adorable. I'm being completely honest. It's adorable.
Thank you. That means a lot. You know what else is adorable? 299 and 3 from Dak Prescott. Dylan, how painful is it? We were just talking about this before the show. One of the hardest things in Dynasty is not just the trades you make, but it's the trades that like you don't make, or like the regret. Let me rephrase that. Some of the biggest regrets I have is the trades I made that I shouldn't have made. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You're always like, oh, I should have traded for this player at a certain time, but trading away guys to then go to an elite status they never had on your team. Dak, I traded away to you last year because in my head, he was always going to be quarterback 9, quarterback 10 on a season. Right now, he is setting the world on fire. Obviously, we're both Cowboys fans. It's great to see the Cowboys playing well and getting a win, but how painful was it for you watching Dak continue to dominate on Mike's team?
Yeah, exactly what we were talking about before the show was the fact that I literally traded Dak away. I think it was the bye week, and it wasn't because he had a bye. That was the point in the season when I had decided, you know what, it's time for me to pack it up, ship him off. I need to get 2 firsts for him while I can, whatever. Since then, he literally has been on an absolute tear. 20 touchdowns. I think he's thrown 20 touchdowns. The next closest is CJ Stroud, who's thrown 10 in the last 6 games. It's like the dude is playing out of his mind, and it continued tonight. Like he literally, everyone that has talked about Dak and how he can't win games, or he's not the wagon, or what is it? It's the truck and the wagon analogy. He's the truck. That's what it is. You know how the truck pulls the wagon, the quarterback is the truck, pulls the team.
I have never heard this analogy ever, bro. Like that is some country bumpkin level stuff. I'm ashamed I don't know it. Like you heard about trucks and the wagon. The truck is going to pull the wagon.
So the truck pulls the wagon, right? The quarterback, that's the truck, can actually support it. You understand where I'm coming from, right?
Oh, 100%. Okay, we've always said Dak can maximize an offense to what the coach can do with it, right?
Well, yeah, or even like I think Dak is proving that he is the truck that drives the wagon, that pulls the wagon, and I think we're seeing that he did that tonight because the defense, the superstar defense of the Dallas Cowboys has been lights out. Deron Bland, with all of his pick sixes, got burnt toast all night tonight.
Shout out to Deron. I mean, he still had an interception. I think it's –
No, he dropped it.
No, he had an interception.
Oh, did he?
He picked off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he undercut her. I know, he had a couple. He had a couple opportunities. But he did have one pick. Something that we shouldn't forget is that Dan Quinn – and Pete Carroll probably know each other incredibly well. So even though it's been a long time since Dan Quinn has been the defensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, there's going to be some bleed over. That's like Dan Quinn's an unbelievable defensive coordinator, but Pete Carroll and a Pete Carroll led, team, there's going to be, drip down in terms of knowledge on how to beat it. But someone who beat it like a drum was DK Metcalf. 6 for 143 and 3 touchdowns. DK Metcalf making up for, I don't want to say lost time, but lost fantasy points. He put Deron Bland
in a blender. He was in a blender all night. Like it was bad. And I think no one, if I'm being honest, no one saw this coming from DK Metcalf, right? Like I don't think anyone. Would you say you saw it? Not to that extent
against the Dallas defense? No, I mean certainly not. I put together one of my parlays again tonight. I 4 yards away from hitting it. I started Rico Dwaddle in a league. Came up 4 yards short, but one of the legs I passed up was DK Metcalf, the over on his receiving, which was 62, because I was like, I just feel like, it's been inconsistent, and he just exploded. against
also there was
we all
like,
thought was a good defense.
We didn't know if Geno was actually healthy, right? There's been some lingering
The
things
elbow,
about his elbow, all these injuries. So no one really knew. But I mean, goodness gracious, DK Metcalf, like that guy balled out. Like Mike just traded him away, which I'm sure he's. And no, the funny thing is Mike. So Mike traded DK away.
I was going to bring
earlier
this up,
this week. DK this week in our league has been traded, and Yacht Club has been traded 3 separate times. Right, I traded him to Mike. Mike traded him to I can't remember who, someone else, and then that team traded them to someone else. The last trade was now the team that plays Mike this week. So now Mike is playing against DK after at the beginning of the week having DK. And that's
we're going to talk about rivalries a little bit in below deck, I know, but like there's nothing worse than when a player like because Mike almost traded with the team he's playing this week. But he ended up not doing the deal because negotiations were so contentious. And then in a roundabout way, 2 trades later, like you just mentioned, DK ends up playing against him. This team is supposed to not be competitive. They're tanking. They're kind of done for the season. They're
in their mind, they're competitive.
Well, this is also your biggest rival.
Yeah, dinguses.
We'll talk about it later. But DK Metcalf, his end of season schedule is juicy. And part of what I was talking with Mike about when he had acquired DK and then he was selling him, I was like, bro, his end of season schedule is so good. He plays San Francisco next week. But then after that, Philly, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Arizona. And so he's either playing games where he's going to need to score a lot of points or he's playing against horrible defenses. So DK Metcalf could certainly be a league winner down the stretch. Still only 25 years old. In terms of dynasty value, is DK forever, or not forever, but for the next 3 years, is he going to be somewhere from wide receiver 10 to wide receiver 16? Because it feels like he just feels so safe right in that pocket.
I think so. I think he will be. And I think he should be a back-end wide receiver 1. I've always been a huge fan of DK. And to me, he'll always sit at that back-end wide receiver 1 because I know what he's capable of. I think we saw that tonight, right?
Points tonight. Yeah,
exactly.
No,
we saw he can pop off, but you're going to get those lull games or like even a streak of just like, but you just got to kind of deal with that because who else is giving you that production and has that upside?
Yeah, and consistent, like every single year, this guy at any, very similar to like a Mike Evans. He's one of those big body freak athletes that at any given moment can score you a lot of touchdowns. Someone who scored a touchdown and who I am incredibly bullish on. I have him in almost every league, and specifically I have him in Yacht Club. He's one of the 3 or 4 players who of relevance. Jake Ferguson, 6 for 77 and a touchdown, getting chippy with Jamal Adams. You love to see it. Super young.
Love it.
Jake Ferguson, top 10 dynasty tight end going forward. The question is, how high can he rise? He's connected to Dak, who's going nuclear. Ferguson,
that's
superstar.
The key. That's the key.
Yeah.
So, yes, as long as Jake Ferguson is a Dallas Cowboy, he is a top 10 tight end.
Right.
Anyone who has that tight end 1 position in Dallas with Dak as a quarterback is a top, I'm even going to say top 5 tight end. Dalton Schultz was same way. Jake Ferguson to me is a top 5 tight end. I don't care what you say. He's playing lights out right now. And Dak Prescott loves his tight end position. That's where he goes to. And that pass to Ferguson, oh my gosh. That touchdown, it was beautiful. That was one of the best throws I think I've ever seen Dak make. It was just like, it was
perfect. Dak had a couple big highlight plays and really should have scored more points. He had that holding penalty on one that he ran in. And then Tony Pollard dropped a touchdown pass from him and then ended up running it in the next play. I was like,
off his face mask. Literally off his face mask.
It hit him right in the hands, in the face mask. Speaking of Tony Pollard, 20 for 68 and a touchdown on the ground. We were talking about this. Pollard found the end zone, so you're happy with his fantasy finish. He looks bad to me. The Cowboys are definitely going to be drafting someone, maybe someone in free agency. Pollard cannot, in my opinion, be the first down back. He doesn't look good with a bigger workload. He's another cautionary tale. We're going to be talking about cautionary tales a little bit further of that super efficient running back that gets all the work and it ends up not working out. Lamar Miller being kind of the most famous for fantasy purposes. Dylan, what do you do with the Tony Pollard? If you're still competing, you ride him out for this season. But if you're kind of on the bubble, is it sell to a contender by any means necessary?
I mean, it's hard to say sell, man. He's coming off 3 hot games. He's putting up double-digit points for you week in and week out because of the offense that he's in. His efficiency is not there. I think he had like just over 3 yards a carry this game.
If you were 6-6 and you could get multiple seconds next year, would you not be tempted to
that's a move I would make. Yes. If I was middling 6-6 on the bubble, I had
maybe you can make playoffs. I'm telling you, but
I'm telling you, after this season, he's not going to be worth. You're not getting more than a single second if you're lucky, depending on where he goes, because he's not going to be a Dallas Cowboy next year. But who will be? Rico Dowdle. I love Rico Dowdle, and we were talking.
Dowdle?
Sure, Dwaddle Daddle. Dwaddle Daddle. Dwaddle Daddle. Dwaddle Duck.
We are children.
We are really children. No, I love Rico Dowdle, and I think we talked about it a little bit before the show. I don't know if Tony Pollard's so bad that Dowdle looks good. I think he's just spry, and he looks like he just runs the ball hard, like with purpose. When you see Pollard, it's like Dowdle jumps, makes a jump cut, hits the hole. Pollard just kind of runs into the back of the lineman, and then they push him forward. So if you do trade away Pollard or whatever, sure, I would try and go get Dowdle for the cheap. If you can go and snag Dowdle, because the Cowboys like to keep it in-house, right? Sure, they might draft a running back this year. Draft class isn't super strong. There's some backs, but I think Dowdle will have a role next year.
Yeah, even if he's still the RB2 there next year and they move on from Pollard, who's more expensive, there's value to be had there. It's kind of going the hero zero running back is certainly, I mean, it's not that it's an unknown strategy in Dynasty, but it's always fun to highlight players like a Dowdle who can provide additional value. Lastly, Zach Charbonnet had a great game, but then exited with injury. I have no idea what the injury was.
It's a knee injury. They didn't say what, but they said knee injury.
Yeah. Seattle, I mean, JSN had a great showing, but Charbonnet had his best game, first career touchdown. So frustrating when a player finishes with like 98 to 99 yards from scrimmage in my league. I started him in a redraft league where we have, when you reach 100 scrimmage yards, you get a 2-point bonus. And both Dak had 299. I'd have gotten a 2-point bonus there. And I was like, come on, man. Like, give me one more yard. It really is a game of inches. But good showing from the rookie. It's good to see that when Ken Walker is out, he can handle the workload. Had a big screen pass that was the majority of his, well, I don't want to say the majority of his yards, but it was a big chunk of it. And then JSN, best game of the week. We argued about this. I thought JSN caught that pass at the end of the half for a touchdown. Seattle got in either way, but 7 for 62. JSN working in the slot, being a chain mover, and drew a lot of penalties as well, which, by the way, that was the one. I don't know if it was a negative. Very rarely do I root for penalties, but it seemed like penalties were creating so many first downs and stopping the clock to make this, like, we had 76 points scored in this game, right? Like, just
there was a lot of pass interference or illegal contact or a whole.
There was 250 penalty yards, like unbelievable.
Gosh,
like
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. But JSN, he looked awesome. You have said it like till you've been blue in the face, like. Patient with your rookies. If you somehow bought JSN when he wasn't performing early on in the season, I think you have to be really ecstatic with what you're seeing now.
I 100% agree. And I don't want to jump too far back, but I do want to question about Charbonnet for you. And Walker. Charbonnet, I mean, we've seen it with Walker. Walker can't stay healthy. I don't know if it's a Seattle curse or what, but their running backs just cannot stay healthy. Charbonnet, he missed some time earlier this season. I think it was a shoulder injury. Like, he's been banged up. So,
I mean, all preseason there was
there was something lingering, and I know he missed regular season time. So, I mean, with Charbonnet, are you worried about him? Do you think? I mean, he had a great game when he was playing.
No, I think Charbonnet is the same as Jaylen Warren. He is the same as Keaton Mitchell to some extent. Well, not actually. That's a completely different. That's a terrible comp because we don't know what is going to go on with J.K. Dobbins. But he's one of those like elite handcuffs with maybe some weakness.
Oh, you still think he's a handcuff? So you're taking Walker over. You think it's Walker's show?
Oh, no question, bro. No, I mean, we've seen this from Seattle before, man. Like, we would see, Chris Carson miss time. Ken Walker would come in. I mean, going all the way back. Do you remember Thomas Rawls with Marshawn Lynch? It was like Marshawn Lynch got all the work. They had a bell cow guy, and Thomas Rawls would be efficient. Like, oh, maybe he touched the ball more. Marshawn Lynch would miss time towards the end of his career. Thomas Rawls would come in. You're like, holy cow, this guy's great. So to me, the only reason we're talking about Charbonnet is because Kenneth Walker wasn't in the game. Until Kenneth Walker looks bad on the field, which he has not when he's played at all to me this season.
No, he's
and the other thing I wanted to point out too, we give Kenneth Walker a lot of crap for like, oh, it's always one big play. He looks inefficient on the ground, and then it's a touchdown or it's this long run. That's exactly what Charbonnet did tonight. It wasn't like he was getting chunk run after chunk run. It was like 3 to 4 a carry at best. He had a couple good runs, but he was mostly getting stuffed. He had a big screen pass, and he found his way into the end zone. So it seems like that is the Seattle running back just is the Seattle running back. You can pencil it in for 20 touches and about 15 points, no matter who it is. But before we move on, I would love your thoughts on JSN because you have been a huge fan of his since before he was ever even drafted.
Yeah, I mean, he was my wide receiver 1 coming into this year, and the landing spot. I was like, DK's there, Tyler Lockett's there. But one thing we talked about, and I've said this, yes, be patient on your rookies, but specifically with JSN, I knew there would be a turning point with Tyler Lockett,
right?
And we saw that tonight, where JSN was the number 2 option in that offense. DK is the unquestioned one. We know JSN's not going to be the one. But he can be a very supportive too, like Lockett.
He could maybe be a 1B next year or something.
1B,
he could evolve into that.
I'll tell you, he's a better wide receiver and a better athlete than Tyler Lockett. I can tell you
at this point in his career, no question. At this point,
well, yes, 100%. And so we saw that shift tonight. And if you waited on JSN, it's going to start to come to fruition. I'm not going to say he's going to jump into that. I still don't think he's a wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. I think I would probably have him around still the 15 to 20 range, if I'm being completely honest. I don't think he's jumped into that top 15 yet.
Him and Devontae Smith feel like and Devontae Smith's in a better offense. It's a very similar situation in my mind, because it's a really, really good route running receiver. And I don't think we haven't seen this yet, but JSN is big play threat. And if he's used like Tyler Lockett is used next year, if they move on from Lockett, get some more deep targets, I think he's going to return well on him. I think it was a touchdown that what he caught, even as a Cowboys fan.
I do not think it was, but I think also too the big question with JSN is what do they do at quarterback next year?
That is what I was going to ask. Geno Smith had a great fantasy game.
What I want to see?
Great fantasy game.
I think we talked about this last week off air. I want to see Michael Penix Jr. in that Seattle offense. That would be.
I want to see Justin Fields in that Seattle offense.
No, absolutely not. If you get Michael Penix in that offense, just slinging it to DK Metcalf and JSN, like, oh my, bro, that would
Gotta
be.
See him in the NFL. It'd be cool.
Keep him in Washington. Keep him in Washington.
No, it would be cool to see. But listen, an amazing fantasy game. You dream of Thursday night games like that. So much we could stay here pretty much the entire night, but we are going to move on. Take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about players you need to be a little bit skeptical on as trade deadlines come, and maybe you're out of it looking to get more youthful. Doesn't always work out the way you think it does. We're going to be highlighting that right after this. Dylan, before we jump into this next segment, which we've named Buyer Beware, I'm kind of buyer beware about next week's Thursday Night Football matchup. Like we're so jazzed, we're so buzzed about this awesome game, and like at the end of the game, they're bringing up next week Patriots versus Steelers. I was
gosh, literally, you're like, oh great, Kenny Pickett versus we don't even know. It could be.
I think the first quarter of this game that we just watched of the Cowboys Seahawks is going to outscore the entirety of
Dak Prescott, or not Dak Prescott. DK Metcalf probably had more receiving yards in this game than we'll see from all the receivers combined on both teams next Thursday.
Hey, you put some respect on George Pickens' name.
Oh my
they
god!
Got rid of Matt Canada. I'm stoked for next week just for George Pickens. It's going to be great.
Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous.
But we are both in an interesting situation. Obviously, I started the season in Yacht Club knowing that I was going to be tanking, but in another Dynasty league I'm in, I've missed playoffs. Like it's slim to none. I got 7 losses. I'm probably going to win this week, but even if I finish 7-7, it's like, okay, it's an outside chance I make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Trade deadline is this week. And I wanted to kind of turn back the clock because it's one of the fun parts of Dynasty is the amount of moves that get made right before playoffs begin, whether you do have a trade deadline or you don't. I know some leagues don't. Where you go like, okay, I'm not competing this year. Let me sell away competitive pieces. Let me get younger. Let me buy guys that are having good rookie years. And a lot of us don't want to make blockbuster moves, but we do sort of, I don't want to call it like mid-level or like just interesting rookies. Guys you deal in all the time, Dylan. I mean, the amount of times you traded like a Curtis Samuel, you know what I mean?
You're catching strays. I'm just minding my own business while listening to you introduce this segment. And this man want to say, yeah, you make mediocre trades. What's the...
No.
What am I thinking? Oh, mediocre trades like you make, Dylan.
They're not mediocre. Blockbuster trades are trades with players who are in the top 12 to... the top 15 of their position. You do a lot of deals from player ranking of,
in the
key
margins.
Trade cut 30 to 50. And that's okay. It worked out with Nico Collins, right? Nico Collins, I believe you acquired at the end of last year. Am I mistaken about that?
No, it was in the offseason. Yeah, it was in the offseason.
Okay.
Yeah.
So something I wanted to bring up is, when you're out of it, you're still looking to develop. You're looking to buy youthful players. Do you remember how much of a dynasty darling Greg Dulcich became at the end of last season?
Who?
Exactly. But Greg Dulcich had a great finish to his rookie year. He came on. He got all the way up to tight end 11 on keep trade cut, and it was all based on the fact that Denver's offense last year was abysmal, and Sean Payton came out and said, Nathaniel Hackett was like the worst head coach. It was like all this new Aaron Rodgers, like, you better watch your mouth, like be worried about week whatever. But like it looked like Sean Payton might have been correct. He came to town. Greg Dulcich is dead for dynasty value. He's had no relevance this season. Admittedly, because of injury, he's missed 9 of 11 games. But even before the season started, we talked to Charles Robinson and found out he was running with the 2s because Adam Troutman was the starter based on blocking. And so if you had spent early capital on Greg Dulcich, you know where else he was a darling? Was best ball. I saw him I was doing tons of best ball drafts in March. You saw Greg Dulcich coming off the board ahead of Chig Okonkwo, ahead of Cole Kmet, Jake Ferguson, certainly. There was just a lot of Greg Dulcich love out there. And so I wanted to ask the question, not necessarily who is this year's Greg Dulcich, but who's someone that is, essentially I'm asking that question, but it doesn't have to be the exact comp. What I'm not trying to say is that this player is going to be a bust and they're going to go to zero. I'm simply saying maybe this player is having a career year or the best year they're going to have because of the situation that they're in. Dylan, do you have a Greg Dulcich in mind that you can bring up? Because I certainly have one. I think you'd be shocked at whose mine would be.
I want to hear yours. Now you got me intrigued. What are you gonna? I'm gonna be shocked. You can't shock me with tight end. There's not very many tight ends. No. Someone that's a.
How loyal I am to my guys. If they're my guy, I'm like I will be a pallbearer at their funeral. I will put them in my will. Cole Kmet has been one of my absolute.
That was going to be mine. This is like we legitimately did not talk before the show. Cole Kmet, I'm not kidding you, was going to be mine. Because of the opposite reasons that you're going to say though. So please go.
No. All right. First of all, that's hilarious. I'm glad I went first because then you'd have been like, you're just copying me.
Yes.
You know how much I love Cole Kmet because I've loved Justin Fields. Cole Kmet is having a fantastic season. He's the tight end 6 on the year right now. But the reason Greg Dulcich became irrelevant was a regime change. I've paid a lot of attention to the Bears, as we know, because my Justin Fields love. You and I have talked about it at length. I don't know if the head coach, Eberflus, is going to be in Chicago next year. More importantly, I don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Justin Fields seems to like Cole Kmet. Tyson Bagent seems to like Cole Kmet. But you know who I really hope isn't in Chicago next year is Luke Getsy, because he is a terrible offensive coordinator, but he seems to be part of the reason why Cole Kmet is finding success. We have no idea what the regime change is going to be. And when that, Cole Kmet, he's got a long-term contract. He's different than Greg Dulcich in that case. I simply think this might be the ceiling that we're seeing right now. He's getting targeted like crazy. He's getting receptions like crazy. Last year, it was built off of touchdowns. I just think if Chicago is going to take a step forward, you need not a more legitimate threat than Cole Kmet downfield, because I do think Cole Kmet is a very, very good tight end, but you need a legitimate wide receiver 2 target threat to complement DJ Moore. Darnell Mooney isn't it. The Bears have a lot of draft capital, a lot of changes coming to Chicago, and I think that Cole Kmet has been the beneficiary of, hey, I'm one of like 3 players you can really trust with the ball right now. So
I'm so mad right now. I really was hoping that we could, again, I could just shove Justin Fields in your face with this and be like, Cole Kmet. But of course you pick Cole Kmet. But you make a great point. I think to kind of just bounce off what you were saying.
I can't believe you chose. I can't. That makes me so mad,
bro. It's like, to me, that was glaring. When you look at,
he's tight end 10 right now, by the way, and keep trade cut.
He's tight end 6 on the season. So I was literally looking in that top 10 range, and I'm like, I don't see. I see them upgrading the wide receiver. They have to upgrade the wide receiver room. They're going to get better than a number 2 Darnell Mooney, right? There's the draft is full of wide receivers. They can go and get a Marvin Harrison Jr. They have 2 first-round picks that are going to be early. So I just think they upgrade, and I don't think Kmet is the 2. Maybe he's the 3, but Mooney's still going to be in the offense.
If Justin Fields leaves, there's a chance that, building rapport with the new quarterback, that you're starting from scratch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, the targets over the last, let's say from week 8, he had 10 targets, 8 targets, 7 targets, and then 7 targets. He's seen 9. Like, that's a lot. That is because there is no wide receiver 2 option. That is the only reason why.
Well, and the other thing I will say, this isn't to say I don't think Cole Kmet isn't talented. This isn't to say this isn't someone you should even buy. I'm simply saying don't buy on the pro forma ascending price. Hey, he's tight end 6. Next year he could. I think is like his ceiling, and it might be like near his floor. He might always be a back end tight end 1, and that's great. I just don't see the path where it gets better because right now, like you said, the targets can't get any better. The offense can definitely get better, but I don't think that the targets can.
Yeah, I think too, with just last thing on Cole Kmet, I think once a tight end, like there was a league where I was trying to get Cole Kmet earlier in the season, and they wanted a first for Cole Kmet, and I was like, that is crazy to me. Like for a tight end, there's not very many tight ends that I'm paying a first for.
In a tight end premium league?
No, it wasn't premium. That's the thing. In a premium league, sure. In a premium league, sure. But this was no premium on the tight end. So once a player gets around that value, and similar to Greg Dulcich, what happened to Dulcich? There was a regime
change.
Now I'm like you with names. Regime. Why can't I not say regime change?
Regime.
My tongue like gets all stuck inside. I don't even know. Sideways and there's regime. Can you say it for me?
A regime change?
Thank you.
Hey, if you can pronounce players, I'll take care of just basic English for you. I got you.
Regime change. There we go. Now I done lost my point. Anyways, there was a regime change with Greg Dulcich, and so you know what? I'm just gonna say it could have a regime change, and that someone could bring in their own tight end. Hey. There's no loyalty to tight ends. That's all I was gonna say. Good Lord.
No. Yeah, that's good. The other thing about Cole Kmet is he's also a great blocker, and so they may in a new offense they may utilize him. Yeah, 6'6", bro. He's a big guy. I'm going to make you go first on this next one because he's someone you actually were touting in the offseason. And I'll admit it, you shifted your opinion before the season started. You kind of saw where I was coming from. But Jerry Jeudy finished the season last year as wide receiver 17. He also in Keep Trade Cut lined up with that value. It seemed like Jerry Jeudy was finally finding his legs. And famously this year, he was wide receiver 17 on Keep Trade Cut as well. So 17 and 17. And then the season happened and he sucked and Steve Smith put him in a body bag and his dynasty value has not recovered. Who is this year's Jerry Jeudy that we need to be a little bit aware of?
I love when we don't like share the show doc or what we're going to say because I think you're going to be shocked. Absolutely shocked.
Okay. I'm putting, don't look at the chat. I'm putting in the chat so people do.
So that it makes it look like it's genuine. Okay. I'll go ahead and say it while you're typing. And this is not because of it's.
Don't look at mine.
I'm not going to. This is not because I think he is Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy has completely separate issues from this guy. My guy is Nico Collins. Collins.
Dude, we're just turning on our own dudes. We are some movie guys. You are Nico Collins.
Listen, I know.
Wow.
So
what a plot twist.
I know. Let me explain. So I love me some Nico Collins. I think he's a legitimate wide receiver. CJ Stroud is incredible. He's going to support whatever wide receivers are there. Tank Dell is the one in that offense. He's proven that. He may be the smallest, but he's small but mighty. I'm really struggling with English today. He's small but mighty. They're going to get another wide receiver. And I think that wide receiver will take over whatever targets, whatever involvement
the outside role.
Yes, and it could be a T. Higgins. You know, everyone that's the place that people want to see T. Higgins go.
Really?
There's a lot of wide receivers in the draft. It pains me to say I love Nico Collins and he's great. And do not trade. If you listen to this podcast and you have the opportunity to capitalize on Nico at a premium, absolutely do it. But if you're going for a shift, do not trade Nico because he's going to be valuable down the stretch. Wait till the offseason. It's not going to hit immediately. But I will say, I would trade away Nico Collins. I wouldn't be buying him right now. I wouldn't be buying him. I would wait to see how the offseason plays out. I know it's painful because also you got to think about it. If you're buying him right now, you're buying him at a premium, right?
No, I agree. I mean, but isn't there a world where CJ Stroud gets even better in a full season?
Yes, absolutely. But
that would be my selling point.
If they bring another wide receiver in, which I will say right now, I'm 95% sure that they'll bring in another wide receiver. What is Nico Collins' true ceiling compared to what he's done this year?
I mean, I feel like you're just trying to trick me into defending Nico Collins. I agree with you completely. I love this answer. I didn't think of it at all. Like, this is great. Like,
it really pains me. I was literally preparing for this, and I was like, man, is there any way I can get around this? And I was like, no, it's too blockbuster. And I've got to stick with I'm a man of conviction. I stick with my conviction.
Your answer is way better than mine.
I love Nico Collins, but I don't
what's
see
his keep trade cut value right now? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, let me take a look at it real quick if you want to give your spiel about Nico.
No, that's really good. Mine was a little bit different because I didn't see Nico. It didn't pop out because what jumped into my head with the Jerry Jeudy is this is a guy we've waited a long time to see anything happen with. Jerry Jeudy had that high draft capital. He was drafted, with CeeDee Lamb, and it was like CeeDee Lamb, him, and I think there was another receiver. It was like the three of them. Marquise Brown. And it was like those three were just these unbelievable prospects, and Jeudy was the leader of them. And so you were hoping that, okay, eventually he's going to return on that hype that he originally had. And so the person that came to my mind was actually Jameson Williams, who is finally starting to get his legs under him with the Detroit Lions. So here's kind of my take. I think Jameson Williams he's going to start to emerge at the end of this season. I think he's going to flash a little bit. And I think that because of everyone's like, oh, he's finally getting utilized, people are going to jump all over it. I think his keep trade cut value is going to skyrocket relative to where it is now. And I think it's fool's gold. I think he'll forever be at least the third or fourth best option. It isn't happening right now, but no one saw Jerry Jeudy at the back end of the season being relevant last year. And as we said, he finished as the wide receiver 17. I think Jameson Williams can have a fantastic end of the season and be super relevant in playoffs and really take over the deep threat role. But the reality is I don't think you should trust it because Amon-Ra is the one. I believe Sam Laporta or Jahmyr Gibbs is the 2 and 3 in whatever order you want to say. I think if you have Jameson Williams, if he has a boom game, you should immediately sell him because he needs to go to a different team. The reality is you're selling the draft capital hype. You're selling the fact that he was one of the first wide receivers taken in his class. But I'll be honest, I like your answer way better. Nico Collins is a lot more relevant.
Yeah, and so Nico Collins, I looked up. Nico Collins is wide receiver 23, by the way, on Keep Trade Cut. And again, what we saw Jerry Jeudy had that strong finish. And like I said, Nico Collins is going to have a strong finish. He still is the wide receiver 2 in that offense. And that's what this whole segment's about, like buyer beware. Don't buy into that. And I like Jameson Williams. We haven't seen it from him yet, put it together, but I think you've seen him get more involved. You've seen him get more involved. And I think I know there's no other options. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, sure. But like, as far as a deep threat, no one can stretch the field except for Jameson Williams. So if Jameson Williams pops off for whatever reason, sell immediately on the hype, sell immediately on the draft capital, like you were saying. But Jameson Williams is a good one. I'm interested to see if he puts it together, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, he had his highest yards of the season. Well, no, he actually had a different. He had a game with 53 yards, but then he missed some time against Baltimore. It doesn't seem like he was in the game hardly at all. But he's been a little bit more relevant on snap percentage lately, and so it's just one of those guys to pay attention to because I think he could have a big finish to the back end of the year, and I think he's just one of those guys that will ride the offseason hype, and people will be re-bringing up his draft profile. And I just don't think that that's relevant at this point in his career anymore. So once again, this isn't, you can't go get these guys. This isn't to say they're universal busts. It's just one of those, I see this in real estate all the time where someone just projects the market to stay the same and grow at a linear pace. And you can't do that. Like there are going to be changes. Sometimes something is at its peak value and it's hard to tell because they're young or they seem ascending, but that's really Jameson Williams can have a great NFL career and never be fantasy superstar. It's just the reality. Moving on to someone who, and dude, I'm weirded out as to who your answer is going to be. I'll go first on this one, but I want you to put it in. I'm going to close the chat so I can't see it, just for accountability purposes. Last year, Tyler Algier broke the Falcons' rookie rushing record. He had a fantastic end to the season. He was as high on Keep Trade Cut as RB, let me double check. He was RB 20. It seemed like he was going to become a stalwart in Atlanta. He was traded for 2 seconds in the offseason in Yacht Club before the draft. Now, obviously, Bijan Robinson ends up there, and Tyler Algier, to no fault of his own, gets absolutely demolished in terms of fantasy value, both in production and in a Keep Trade Cut hype. He's now RB 40. So who's a running back who, despite their on-the-field performance, despite their actual excellent production, can get demolished because there's no real draft capital loyalty or building around
I'm actually, pause. I'm nervous because
I have
There's
a
a
feeling
strong
it's the same
chance.
guy now.
Don't look at the chat because mine is in the chat. I'm actually legitimately nervous. Okay, go ahead.
Mine is the actual RB12 on the season right now in Isaiah Pacheco.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, we're good. All right,
That's
we're
a good
good.
one. That's a good one.
Analysis.
I like that one. I like that one. Go ahead.
So Isaiah Pacheco is a great running back. I think he's a very, very great 7th round pick that the Chiefs have stolen on. But I want to remind people of what happened in the NFL draft. It was heavily implied that the Chiefs were going to be taking Jahmyr Gibbs if he fell to them at the end of the first. And they were really disappointed when he didn't. They re-rolled the season with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jerick McKinnon. Isaiah Pacheco is currently the RB14 on Keep Trade Cut. This is a sell. This is a screaming sell to me because he is not ever just the way Kansas City in the modern day in Andy Reid offenses uses the running back. He's not ever going to get 30 touches a game. It just very rarely is going to happen. He's not going to get the passing work and all the rushing work. He's had a good season, largely on the back of injury from both Jerick McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They've been hardly involved whatsoever. Jerick McKinnon, when he was there with Isaiah Pacheco last year, they were both popping off towards the end of the season in terms of usage, but Jerick McKinnon was getting all the receiving touchdowns. I think Isaiah Pacheco has reached his value, his peak value. I think you should sell him to a contender. There's no loyalty to him. I think they for sure draft a better pass-catching running back and forever cap his ceiling and then his future value. You could maybe get a first right now for an Isaiah Pacheco. I don't know that you can do that in 3 or 4 months' time. So Pacheco, buyer beware, and sell him as soon as you can.
Yeah, no, I like that one, but I'm going to disagree with you, and here's why. I do. Wow. So I'll agree with you and disagree with you. I agree with you that
disagree.
He's probably reached his quote unquote ceiling. I don't see him. He's RB14, maybe gets into RB1 because of hype at some point if he has a great end of the season, sure. But I think that's where he stays. Like I don't see him dropping off because I think he runs too hard. I think they found a gem. And why would they go and re-roll that when they just tried the Clyde Edwards-Helaire experience and they actually took a stab at trying to take a running back early and then they end up finding one in the 7th round. So it's like, why would you go through that again? Well, Jerick McKinnon won't be a part of the team.
It's that they said they were going to. I'm basing this off of what the GM said.
But I think how do you stop giving carries to a guy like Isaiah Pacheco? The dude runs so hard, it's effective. He's playing well. So until I see a decline, like he's efficient when he runs hard. The offense is working, and he's the lone bright spot. Other than what are you laughing at me for?
No, dude, these are great arguments, but bro, like, what's so crazy? Just remind yourself. We said the same thing about Tyler Algier. It made no sense. It made no sense why the Falcons drafted their running back.
It's different. Like, it's different. The Chiefs aren't going to be in a position to get a Bijan Robinson. That is completely different. The Chiefs will not get. They're not going to do that. So I think that's a little different, and I also think that Pacheco's going to stay in that 14 to 20. That's a little broad. 14 to 18. Let's call it 14 to 18 range. I see him staying there through next season, and so I think the value will be relatively the same.
He's not getting younger. He's a 7th round pick. I have my concerns. I think this is the ceiling in terms of hype. So. Now, he could have a better season fantasy. Like next year, he could rush for 11 or 12 touchdowns. I don't know what he's on pace for at this exact moment, but he could have better production ahead of him. I'm not saying he couldn't do that. I agree with what you're seeing on the field, but I just think that in terms of the dynasty value, he's not a piece you're going to feel safe.
If you're rebuilding, that's not a guy you want to hold on to at all. I'm saying if you're if you're a contender, if you're rebuilding, absolutely sell him. Like if you can get a first for him, he should have been off your team last week. So yeah,
fair enough. Reveal to me this secret person we were nervous about,
bro. I'm so like contradicting myself, and I love it. But it hurts. It hurts.
Is this just like hurts. This isn't the buyer beware? This is the betrayal of the my guys, or this is like the admitting my faults episode?
No, it's really not admitting my faults because I love Nico Collins and I still stand by him, and I would roster him unless there was a great offer that came through. This guy, he was a my guy. It was a my guy that was very close to my heart. It's someone that I've talked about from the draft process all the way up until he became a Miami Dolphin, and that is Devon Achane.
I almost put Achane.
Devon Achane for me is a screaming need. Is most likely production wise going to get replaced. Raheem Mostert's playing fine. I don't know if Raheem Mostert's even on the team next year. At the beginning of the season, all the way up until the trade deadline, they tried so hard. Miami did to get Jonathan Taylor, a Saquon Barkley. Like every time there was a Dalvin Cook, any time an RB became available, they were the first ones that you heard. Oh, Miami's actually interested. It wasn't just rumors of like, oh, well, they should go to Miami. It's like, no, Miami's actually interested on the phones trying to get these guys. Anytime there was a contract issue. So this offseason, Saquon Barkley is going to be a free agent. What if Tony Pollard goes there? Like, I think that offense is built for efficiency, and it's the same argument that I've had for Achane. Achane is not a big back. He's proven to struggle with injury. A knee injury is not good, man. It's just not good. Yeah. And the fact that he re-injured it, it's not good. I just think next year, whether it's through the draft, whether it's through free agency, whether it's through trade, they're going to acquire the back that McDaniel wants. And it's going to be the back that they want in that offense. And Achane is just going to be an asset. This is going to be a supplement.
Are you saying like McDaniels wants a bigger back? Like they because how is Achane not the back McDaniel wants?
More a reliable back, I would say. More of a reliable back. Like health-wise.
Hot take, knee injuries are bad for running backs.
Very hot take. Sell him if he has a knee injury. No, but I legitimately think that they're going to find a way they're going to replace Mostert. Mostert most likely won't be on that team. He's 31 years old, older running back. And I think they're going to find a way to find someone that can actually carry the bulk of the work and not get injured like Achane. Achane, anytime, he was great, phenomenal.
He's just not built for a workload.
He's just not built for that workload. Exactly.
No, here's my one question. Like, aren't you okay knowing he doesn't need a workload to be a fantasy superstar? And isn't that going to stick in people's minds? Because it's not like he ever got, 20 touches in a game. And there was some crazy stat that he was averaging like 31 half PPR points per game. Like when he was like, if you exclude the weeks before he broke out or whatever, it was like that stretch he was on was insane. Yeah. This is someone who to me is in the perfect offense to be at like, if I were trading for Devon Achane right now, I know that I probably am not going to get someone who I can start and trust is going to be there every single week. But I will throw him, even if he is healthy all season.
That's the thing. He's RB7 on KTC.
That's okay. RB7. So who are they? All right. So all right. Christian McCaffrey, obviously taken above him. Bijan Robinson, taken above him. Kenneth Walker, you taken above him?
Yes. I think.
Okay. ETN.
Yes. We'll say yes to Kenneth Walker. ETN, yes.
Breece Hall.
Yes.
Jonathan Taylor.
No. That's probably the line. I'm worried about Jonathan Taylor. I really am. These injuries,
Jonathan Taylor's a huge back. He can sustain injury.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean. He's injured. Sure, it's a running back position. That's where I draw the line. I would probably actually take Jonathan Taylor over Devon Achane, but like that's pretty much where the line is for me. And that's exactly like Jonathan Taylor's RB6, Devon Achane's RB7, but Kenneth Walker's RB8.
I'm a believer in Achane because I feel like people know because of how electric he was in terms of just the value conversation. People know he's always just one play away from glory, and it's but
RB7. You're telling me you're holding on to RB7 value?
I don't know if I ever would have put him that high. I mean, yeah. Actually, let me think here. Who are guys? So
ETN, behind him, you've got Kenneth Walker. You've got Saquon Barkley.
Take Saquon.
You got Kyron Williams. That's an interesting name.
That's a tough conversation. I think you got to go Achane there. What he was doing.
So that's the line. So that's RB10.
I think Kyron's great, but yeah, listen, you're not going to be mad if you get a first or a long-term wide receiver over HM because we just know the running back position breaks down quicker and someone that's slight at the position.
What if is going to break down really quick? 25-year-old, about to be 26-year-old Josh Jacobs ends up in Miami?
I mean, that'd be cool. But I would take Achane over Josh Jacobs in Dynasty.
Really?
Right
oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't know about that one. That's tricky for me. And I legitimately, I do like Achane. As soon as he, and you can ask anyone, as soon as I was a fan of Achane until he got to, at one point he was like RB4. And that's to me, like,
I'm okay with him being overvalued right now. I wouldn't be upset trading for him right now. I think he's worth a late first. I really do. But running backs, if you're rebuilding, you shouldn't be doing that in general.
Correct, yeah.
So we agree on that. That's a tough one. Good conversation. Last one I want to talk to about. This is a tough one. This is a really tough one because we've talked. I mean, this show could be just a quarterback show because of super flex leagues. Everything is driven by the quarterback. And so anytime we can find value, we're searching for him. And Daniel Jones last year finished as the quarterback 9 on the season. And we even came in, we had a segment like, who's going to be this year's Daniel Jones is like a great example, recruiting value. And obviously injury has hindered his year, but Daniel Jones, when he was on the field, looked awful. The Giants looked lost. Daniel Jones, there's questions in my mind about whether or not the Giants, I mean, they won this last week, so maybe they re-roll with him, and he did get a long-term contract, but it isn't the type of contract they couldn't move on from. So Daniel Jones, I'm not predicting injury here. This is not what we're trying to say, but who's that mid-level quarterback or a younger quarterback that we're hoping is going to get a long-term contract that really we should be avoiding? I'm going to make you go first again because I know you're going to disagree with mine.
Oh, absolutely, because I know I'm going to pick the guy. Like, this should be the Justin Fields segment for me. Are you kidding me? This literally just screams Justin Fields to me. I literally thought about it. I was like, should I go a different direction? Because I had someone else, and I was like, no, absolutely not. Like, why? Why would I not take the opportunity to tell you once again, Joshua Walsh, Justin Fields is going to fall off a cliff. His value in this offseason, it's going to be where's he going to be? Does he get traded all the way until the draft? And then even if they don't trade him, it's like, oh, great. Now he's still on the dude, between the ears, I'm worried about him. I've gone on here and said that coaching has been the issue, and I don't think the talent is the issue. I still don't think the talent is the issue. But you're seeing,
he might be ruined between the ears.
You even admitted it. Right. You see him double clutching and doing this hit. Like, I'm out OUT on Justin Fields, and I don't know how you double down on him or how you have him in so many leagues or why you still continue to advocate for the man. But
I mean, he's at some point you have to sell your merchandise, man. You have to be a believer. You have to sell. You have to get rid of your product, bro. Like
this was my feel good. This was my feel good moment though, because I had to talk about Achane. I love Achane. I had to talk about Nico, and then I saw this and I was like,
just as I thought we were getting on the same page.
No, totally. No. So, I mean, can you tell me this isn't lining up to be just like a Daniel Jones situation? Like,
I don't think it is at all, because there was hype. Daniel Jones never had the hype Justin Fields has. Justin Fields has already fallen in terms of people's, he was all the way up to quarterback 6 on Keep Trade Cut. Now he's down to quarterback 14. Daniel Jones, it was like, oh, Daniel Jones, fantasy relevant, stringing it together. It had been years of disappointment. So I don't think the situation's exactly the same, but I do see where you're coming from. Of like, dude, it's not, Justin Fields isn't getting a contract. It's not getting better. Like this, you should just be.
Daniel Jones actually got a contract. He played well enough to get a contract. Justin Fields arguably will not get that. Definitely not that kind. Not from Chicago.
I don't think Chicago's giving him a long-term contract this offseason. It wouldn't make sense for them to, as long as Carolina has the 101. They're going to keep their options open. This is how bad it's gotten for me, where I had a friend. I can't share too much. But he is not connected to the NFL. Like, he is not an NFL insider. He works in an industry where he rubs in with, like, consider him like, this is the equivalent of a bartender who's like, hey, one of my regulars who is involved in the NFL and wouldn't disclose it. He texted me. He goes, hey, I'm hearing rumors of Fields to Atlanta. And I literally was like, I need to ask Mike if that's real, because I'm so desperate for any hope of Fields getting resurrected in value. So I hope Chicago wins out the rest of the season for Justin Fields' sake. And so he just puts on great tape to get traded elsewhere, because if they have the 101, it's going to be hard pressed for them not to take Caleb Williams, because not only do they move on from a quarterback they're maybe not 100% on, but they reset the money issue because they don't have to give him a long-term contract. They start again with a rookie contract. So I can see it, man. Unfortunately, I can see it, even though I still believe in Fields. I'm just him and Pickens.
I don't know how you. To me, the writing is on the wall.
1,000 rushing yards in a season. He's still going to have 600 rushing yards this year. There's reason to believe in him for fantasy purposes.
Oh my gosh.
This is going to be fun.
600. By the way, who had 700 rushing yards last year?
Daniel Jones.
Yes.
That's why I brought that. Okay. It's cool.
I'm just saying they're the exact same. It's going to be the exact same situation.
You had a good answer. I'm not disagreeing.
I just need you to come to the realization of, like, you know what? I am head over heels for someone who doesn't love me back and is not showing it.
Bro, listen, the night is always darkest just before the dawn. You're never a losing gambler if you're always one like, what is it? You're I think 14 blackjack hands away from being a millionaire. If you win 14 times in a row in blackjack,
where do you come up with this stuff?
Oh, that's just like that's like a obvious gambling degenerate Matt thing. And I'm not saying I would ever do that. I'm just simply saying you're only
Gambling, Battlestar Galactic. What are you? You always bring the randomest story.
I have never in my life referenced Battlestar Galactica.
I can guarantee you started off a show. Did you guys see the Thursday night game of Battlestar Galactic?
I have referenced Warhammer 40K because Henry Cavill is doing an Amazon show about it. So I was like, let me research this because I love Henry Cavill. Okay,
90% of the audience has no idea what you're talking about.
People know who Henry Cavill is. He's freaking Superman. Okay, or was. Anyway, I digress. Getting back to someone who is not Superman, even though you might believe he is, my buyer beware is Will Levis. Dylan, Daniel Jones and Will Levis have opposite problems. Will Levis has great arm talent. I will be the first one to admit that. Daniel Jones has great leg talent. We call him Vanilla Vic. The guy can scramble. Will Levis, bro, the whole reason Daniel Jones, I believe, has failed, they did not get enough weapons for passing purposes into New York. They drafted a Jalen Hyatt, but Darren Waller, he clearly didn't work out, even though comeback stories were believing for Darren Waller and the Inflection Network. Darren Waller's been injured. He never got his footing. Daniel Jones is in limbo. I believe that the Tennessee Titans as a whole are going to be in limbo. They brought in DeAndre Hopkins. He's getting older. They still owe him money next year. What is the offensive future for Tennessee as a whole? Who does Will Levis have to throw to? He's thrown for 6 touchdowns in 5 games. 4 of them came in the debut when they had no tape on him, and they were like, yeah, throw deep on us. He's like, I can do that. Since then, it's really calmed down. In the last 3 games, he hasn't had over 200 yards. I'm not faulting him, by the way. I'm not saying it's all his fault. We saw what Kenny Pickett could do when you got rid of Matt Canada. I'm simply saying Tennessee as a whole has been built for this downhill grind, hard-nosed defense. Derrick Henry grinds you to a halt. How does that philosophy change? The entire organization needs an overhaul. And here's my most important point. The overhaul is not going to come to focus on Will Levis. They didn't draft him in the first round. He never would have gotten this opportunity unless injury had happened. He was a 2nd-round pick. I don't believe they're committed to Will Levis. Buyer beware. And I know you were a buyer. I just don't think Will Levis is nearly as stable as people think. He's a risky play. He could work out because of his arm talent. I believe he's talented. Don't get me wrong. But I just think the situation is too tumultuous, much like it is in New York.
If it's not Tennessee, it's going to be somewhere. And you have a great argument, and I understand where you're coming from, respectfully. Respectfully, I completely disagree. And I think so you're 100% correct when you say Tennessee needs a complete overhaul, because this offense has been built around Derrick Henry. Hand the ball off to Derrick Henry. We need ancillary pieces around to, be able to pass the ball somewhat. When's the last time they had a namely wide receiver other than, I guess A.J. Brown? But even when A.J. Brown was there, it was still the Derrick Henry show. I was like, when's the last time? Oh, yeah, they had A.J. Brown.
But then they traded him away. Fans who were fans of the show. Dang it!
That was the turning point of, they put all their eggs in the Treylon Burks basket. It's unfortunate. Injury. It hasn't worked out for him. It's not great. I still have hope in Treylon Burks as well. DeAndre Hopkins. It's DeAndre Hopkins. I still think he's even going to be relevant next year. I still think he's going to be good. I trust Vrabel. I trust the front office, and I trust that team to make a change. And I think, yes, they didn't draft him in the first round, but they took an early 2nd pick and drafted him. That is still significant capital to go and try and draft a quarterback when you have Ryan Tannehill and you took a Malik Willis the year before in the 3rd round.
I don't know if he was a guard or a tackle. But they literally he was their 2nd pick in the 2nd round.
Oh, yes. They needed an offensive lineman. Yes, they needed offensive linemen. What? Yeah.
I'm simply saying, listen, maybe a better comp for Will Levis is Kenny Pickett. It's like
that's so disrespectful. He is so much more talented than Kenny Pickett.
Arm talent, we're not arguing that.
I'm saying talented in general. I'm saying he's just a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett.
He has to have an opportunity. All right, question. Do you believe in the theory, for example, the U.S., if everyone played soccer, we would win the World Cup every year? Our best athletes don't play soccer. You know what I'm saying?
No, I have no idea what you're trying to say.
What I'm trying to say is that opportunity is half the battle. I believe some of the best football players who've ever existed probably have never gotten their shot in the NFL. A great example would actually be Treylon Burks. I think Treylon Burks is a fantastic football player. Injury has kept him from being incredible. You know what I mean? It is really hard to make it in the NFL. It's a war of attrition. You have to just show up and continue to grind every day. That's why Bo Jackson isn't the all-time leading rusher, and Tom Brady is the best quarterback that ever lived because Tom Brady found a way to get out on the field, lead his men, be excellent, blah, blah, blah. Will Levis, right now, he has to fight just to stay on the field, Dylan. That's my point. It doesn't matter how talented his arm is if he doesn't get to showcase it in an offense that isn't built around that talent. And it certainly doesn't get to showcase it if a new regime
so that's
comes
where
in
I actually
and completely
disagree.
change it over.
He's not fighting to stay on the field. If they still have a shot at making the playoffs. If they do not, if they felt like that was going to be jeopardized significantly, you think that Vrabel would just say, we're just going to keep him in. We just need to tough it out. No, because who's already taken them to the playoffs? Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, but Ryan Tannehill's past his prime, and you and I know that, and Tennessee knows that.
Ryan Tannehill has more experience, though, to at least run an offense than Will Levis. He got all the reps in the offseason. Will Levis has gotten no opportunity to learn the offense.
I just don't think the loyalty is as strong. It's just not as clear.
I'm not going to advocate for the loyalty because these coaches ain't loyal. These GMs,
bro, they got rid of A.J. Brown. Like I'm just saying, Tennessee as a whole, it's a tumultuous situation. Buyer beware on Will Levis. You've already made that gamble, and we're just going to agree to disagree on it. We're going to take a really quick break, and when we come back, this was a bit contentious. I liked it. It was good. It was fun. Something else that's been, I know. Well, there's been that kind of
making me hot.
It's been that way in the chat. I'm trying to say it's like below deck. We've got a lot of beef to talk about, and maybe how to encourage some more beef in your league if it's feeling a little bit dry in the chat. Stay tuned. We've referenced it before, and some people have attacked me a little bit of saying it feels like I've spent more time building the league than I have building my team. And the reality, Dylan, we're talking about some rivalries in Below Deck. I was slandered in a text today. One of the guys in our league has taken it upon himself to call himself the Adam Schefter of the league. He actually runs our Twitter. If you want to follow Yacht Club Dynasty, football.com. That existed before Mike Smith was ever in the league. It existed before the show. We were tweeting out, breaking news stories from the league. It seems like I'm always having to defend my authority as the commissioner, and it's not even my authority. It's just like that the league is, people are like, oh, this is all going to crap. I'm like, guys, we are the craziest, most involved league that's ever existed. None of you read the contract. It's exhausting.
To be a commissioner, you have to have a backbone. You have to have a backbone. If you don't have a backbone,
you have to have a thick skin more than anything. I think a lot of commissioners get in trouble trying to do too much. Like, well, I'm in charge. I'm in control. At the end of the day, as a commissioner, you are the organizer of everyone's. You're just trying to keep everyone organized. Like, hey, so we can keep playing the game. Like, you want people to stay. But all I was going to say was my biggest rival is just whoever is trying to tear down the integrity of the league that particular Sunday. So this week for me, it was the Adam Schefter of our league who runs Yacht Club DynastyFootball.com. He was leaking reports that I was stepping down as commissioner. My sister, who is an attorney, this is how stupid we get. Like in this, I was like, this will be hilarious. I'm having her write a cease and desist letter to send to him with hilarious terms. Like, if you don't take this report, because he didn't reach out to me for comment. He floated a rumor, unsubstantiated, and he didn't give me a head up beforehand. So I think it's called libel. So he's committed a crime. My sister is. I was just double checking with her. So the law offices of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe will be reaching out. But Dylan, rivals for you are much different. You actually have a team, and you have a lot of very unique takes. And you're a college football, and you're a Devy fan, man. Like, you believe in your guys, and you take shots. You get a lot of crap. And other than Mike Smith, man, there's not many allies. It's kind of you versus everyone else in the league. Who is your biggest rival, and why? Yeah,
so I want to preface this a little bit with just setting the floor for rivalries in general, right? I was in another league, and I was talking. I'm in another league.
We're setting the floor, not the table. Why are we eating on the floor now?
Listen, we ain't grow up with money, man. Sometimes we just have to cook and eat on the floor. We ain't have a dining room table.
No, we can't. We have been. I've Rico Duado, regime.
I can't even say regime.
You can't even do it right now. Our fifth grade English teacher is so disappointed.
Let me set the floor. Set the stage. Is that better? Set the stage. Is that
much better? Okay. That's great. The table, the stage. I just don't want to eat on the floor.
Let me set the stage for you. I'm in a league, and I was talking to the commissioner, and we were talking in our league about rivals, right? And there's so many different ways to generate. Some people want rivals because people talk about their chat growing stale during the season or in the off season, and they just want to stir the pot. And you have some people that do that naturally. Davis is one of those people that just does that just by being Davis.
Value king himself.
Yeah,
absolutely.
like he literally doesn't have to do anything. Just say hi in a chat, and it sets the whole thing ablaze. But I don't think rivalries can be forced. I don't think you can do divisions. That sure, those get interesting. That's fun. You can do divisions, but you can't emulate the actual NFL. It doesn't get. The way to honestly create rivals is to have a bunch of personalities in a group and just let them free for all. And I think, Josh, as a commissioner, you've done a great job at that. You've just let the the personalities be the people and the personalities. However, you catch the brunt of every single one of those personalities all at once. And so I commend you for that.
Well, I would say, no, just really quickly, I do think there's a way to create rivalries. And I think as a commissioner, if you want to promote it, do not try to over-control trades, because bad trade negotiations, that's the number one creator of rivals.
That is true.
The amount of calls I've gotten from people is like, hey, like, especially when a league first starts, because I commissioned a couple leagues, people are like, hey, I don't know them super well. I just want to ask, what are they smoking? Because how dare they offer me this disrespect? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like,
what has changed? It's so funny you say that, because that's exactly where I was going. And I was going to lead into my rivalry. And what the best way to start a rivalry, if you really want to get under people's skin, and I hate this, you should never do this. This should be, I'm going to try to do something in the offseason in the Yacht Club to get this banned. Screenshotting trades is got to be the number one middle finger to the face of anyone. That ultimately, all respect goes out the window. I'm not going to enter into trade negotiations if we're going to talk and then you're going to screenshot things and put them in the chat.
Oh, and share them in the chat. I don't mind that at all. I don't mind that at all, to be honest with you.
What? That is the most, how do I say this PG? I can't even say it because I can't keep it clean. It makes me so mad. It makes me so mad when people do that. How do you say that's okay? Is that not just like the wussiest thing you could do?
Like post
you're in negotiations and you don't like the trade, so you say, ha ha ha, look how trash this person's doing. It's like, what makes you think the trade's going to go through? That's going to help negotiations at all?
It's certainly not, but it sets a precedent of don't come to me with this lowball offer. It's behavior modification. Like, my whole thing is like, so if I would never get mad if someone sent a crappy trade that I sent out, like, at all. Like, to me, if you put an offer on paper, maybe this is just coming from my industry, is like, you have to be able to defend that to some extent. And if you can't, and you just say like, I'm trying to get away with BS, great. I think that drives engagement. I don't care at all if people, as you know, because it's like, I love Justin Fields. Like, what are you looking at? Like, if I like a player, if I like a certain thing, I don't care about people's opinion.
My biggest argument with that and why I hate it is because value is so objective. It really is. It's so objective. Like, you can say a offer is there are blatantly terrible offers.
Have I ever done that to you, though? Here's my question. Have I ever done that to you? Yeah, like share a trade no. Have I ever done that to Mike? Have I ever done that to the fellow Arizonan golf member on my team?
No.
The trade partners that I always get stuff done with, I have no need to do that, because I would never blow up a good relationship. Like, hey, we have a rapport. We're able to get to a deal quickly. Boom, I'm able to share it. Guys who I don't do that many deals with, there's a level of posturing where I'm like, hey, dude, if you're going to, like, because there are some people, and this is just where our league is great, who approach trades like it's a hostile takeover. Like, they're a corporate raider. They're like, listen, you're lucky you're receiving our call. You're so blessed to get this.
True.
Like true. I'm just entertained by the whole thing. I'm like, really? I am?
Well, the people that I'm talking about, that this literally happened to me, and it literally just makes me so mad. They're D-heads. I'm just trying to keep it PG. They're complete D-heads, and I can't stand them.
Dorkheads? Yeah.
Dorkheads. They're dorkheads. They literally, I send them an offer. We're talking about negotiations. They've sent me so many disrespectful offers, and I counter. I want to enter in a negotiation, right? You talk about it. I don't screenshot it and send it. I send them one thing, and these D-heads go and post it in the chat and just try to make this hoopla. I'm out having dinner with my family tonight. I'm getting added in the chat for no reason. They're not even playing me this week, and they're trying to. That is
the worst.
Like,
that is the worst. Like, you in the chat, and it's like you're being roasted, and then people are like, oh, where are you? LOL, you're so scared to respond. Took you long. And I was like, bro, I literally had a life. Like, what are you?
If I don't respond right away, these D-heads literally get on me. They're just like, well, where's Dylan at? Blah, blah, blah. And they talk about my competitive edge and attack me, and I can't even defend myself because I'm not on the chat. It's just annoying.
I'm convinced that we need to spend league funds to rent out a boxing rink, boxing ring,
We
so
should
we can
live
have.
stream it on.
We should on the website
or the Dynasty Exchange. Wow, I just mentioned the two together.
Well,
Dynasty Exchange Underground.
We can just do it. We can do it on the Yacht Club website as well. We can do
Yacht Club, yes.
Places, but we have beef that needs to be settled, and the world will be more entertained for it. Well, that is going to do it for us. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Dynasty Exchange. Great that the Cowboys finally got a win over a 500 above 500 team. I'm praying that the luck continues, but the reality is I'm riding high because probably in a month I'll be down in the dumps. Thank you, Cowboys. Good job, Dak. And this has been the Dynasty Exchange. Dynasty the king.